Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, here to report some sad news. Yesterday, as all of us were watching, or many of us were watching the Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury fight in Saudi Arabia, we got the terrible news that Matthew Perry, not the Commodore who was the first American to sail to Japan, but Matthew Perry, the actor, star of Friends, as Chandler Bing, passed away at the age of 54. Um, it is unclear as of now, other than drowning, he was drowning in his tub. It is unclear if it is a drug issue. Many people believe that it was a drug issue because of his past history, which he is pretty candid about in his memoir, Friends, Lovers, and a Big Terrible Thing, that came out a couple of years ago. Um, it cannot be understated that this television show, Friends, that ran from 1994 to 2004 for 10 seasons on the NBC network, was the biggest show of the 1990s. A show about six friends in their in their late 20s, early 30s, living in an apartment building. Um, Matthew Perry was born in Williamstown, Massachusetts, to an American father and a Canadian mother. His mother was worked in the administration of Pierre Trudeau, the father of um, the current Canadian Prime Minister. He began acting in the late 70s, um, landed his first big role, I would say, as Tracy Gold's uh, boyfriend Sandy in 1989 in a special episode of Growing Pains, in which the character Sandy dies on the show from a car accident after he and Carol, Tracy Gold's character, were drunk driving. Basically, it was an episode um, admonishing young people not to drunk drive. From there, he didn't do much. After that, a few cameos here and there on 90210 and other TV shows. But then in 1994, thanks to Marta Kaufman, who the creator of Friends, he landed the role on Friends, which was originally called Six of One. That was the original name for Friends. Thank God they changed the title. And it was off to the races from there. This show became a cultural phenomenon and, like I said, a touchstone of the 1990s on a network that from 1984 to 1994, already NBC had been that juggernaut. The 1980s was the time that NBC took over. We talked about how AB, when uh, Suzanne Summers passed away, how ABC was in the 70s, and the kind of newer programming that they were selling as far as sex. We talked about before and other times how Bill Cosby set the tone for NBC in the 1980s. Well, Friends capitalized on that momentum, as did Seinfeld, as did Will and Grace, and that Thursday night lineup for NBC was must see television, was number one in many people's households. They went up against Fox for viewership, but Fox was appealing more towards um, ethnic audiences, black audiences, Hispanic audiences, with shows like New York Undercover and Living Single, which many people believe that, and rightfully so, that living single was the template for which Friends was established. Because shows like Living Single and Friends were different in a sense that it was the first television show. Those were the first type of television shows that were about not family, but about friendships, about found family. The first sort of, I've seen the word bantied around, hangout type of shows that didn't exist before. Yes, you had Three's Company where it was three friends that all lived together, but that was sort of played for laughs. This was more serious. This was about friends, um, friends forming a bond that became family like. And keep in mind, not only uh, living single out at that time, but also on Broadway, you had a the debut of Rent, and I always found Rent and Friends to be kind of similar in their tone. Although Rent is very much more serious, and Rent is a take on La Vie Boheme, the opera, in a modern sense. It kind of deals with a lot of the same things. Young people struggling to live in the inner city. Not necessarily that Friends was about struggling, but the experiences of mid to uh, late 20s, early 30s types of people living within New York City, really giving us a glimpse of 90s New York City culture. Rent did it first. Living Single also did it from an African American perspective, but I feel like Friends uh, kind of took the ball and ran with it. You know what I mean? Showing us that families come in all different shapes and all different type of sizes, and they don't all have to be related. At least what's going on. Um, it could just be, friends, as the title says. Um, Admittedly, I wasn't a huge fan of it of the show, but like I said, the cultural impact was so large that there was no getting away from knowing something on a certain level about it. Knowing who the characters were, like Chandler and Monica and Phoebe and Rachel and Ross, right? Everybody knows that Rachel and Ross were on a break, and that sort of will they or won't they type of tension that existed with them. Although that wasn't invented by Friends, I would say that was invented by Cheers. You know, Sam and Diane did it first, but that was kind of one of the main themes of Friends was when will Jennifer Aniston's character and David Schwimmer's character get together and be together. Um, but I will always say that when it comes to Friends, that I believe that they copied the template from Living Single. You know, initially, Marta Kaufman, she's the creator of Friends. She denies that that's the case, but I always say that I will always say that is the case because it's the same type of show, just transferred from one ethnicity to another. They took just like how Boys to Men was already doing the boy band thing, and they just switched the ethnicities and created NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. You know what I mean? New Edition was doing it first, and then New Kids on the Block did it later. That's just how things go. Oh, Lisa says that she thinks they admitted to it. Okay, I never heard. Wait, let me see. I don't know, I can't find it at least, but um, a quote where Marta Kaufman actually and David Crane are actually saying that they took it from Living Single, but obviously they did. But that was just around the culture in the 90s, whereas the 80s was more, the sitcoms and stuff were more family oriented. In the 90s, they moved from family to more friendship oriented hangout types of shows. And that set the tone from there. You know, you had shows like How I Met Your Mother, shows like The Big Bang Theory. But going back to the life of Matthew Perry, you know, he struggled his entire life with drug use. He even had to have a surgery on his, I believe, his colon or some part of his body that because he had used so many opiates, you know, throughout his life. You know what I mean? So, and in 2013, he received a special reward from the White House for helping people in recovery. You know, helping people, you know, trying to recover from drug and alcohol abuse. So his journey is one of inspiration. His journey is one of second chances. But much like his character in that 1989 cameo that he did in Growing Pains, sometimes second chances aren't always enough. And the damage that we do to our bodies when we do drugs, even if we get better, the damage is always there, guys. So, um, you know, like Lisa said, Whitney Houston, uh, others like that, Scott Hall, the wrestler comes to mind. You know, people do get better, but unfortunately, the body isn't as regenerative as we would like it to be. But rest in peace to Matthew Perry. Like I said, the show, just a tremendous show. I think when a lot of people think of the 90s, they think of two shows, at least, like I said, when it came to the mainstream Caucasian audience. Most people think of Living Single and Martin. I think of Living Single and Martin, but other than Living Single and Martin, they might think of Friends and Seinfeld. You know, that NBC lineup. It was a monster lineup um, in the 1990s. If anybody wants to read a good book on how they developed that, Top of the Rock is a tremendous book about that must see TV era, the real last era of classic television in the United States here. And they have so many Friends spin-offs. Of course, they had the 2021 reunion on HBO Max. The show Joey, in which Matt LeBlanc's character of Joey Tribbiani spun off from that. And they have spin-offs all around the world. They have an Indian version, a Pakistani version. There's a lot of different versions. So he really touched a lot of lives. Um, that's all I got to say, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see my next videos coming out. Thank you. Love you guys.